Hello YouTube and hello Ninth Age community. This is Charles at Evershade Gaming and I've got another Ninth Age battle report. This is round 5 of Michigan GT here in Lansing, Michigan. And let's get into it, folks. For round 5, it's actually quite simple. We're playing Frontline Clash and Capture the Flags, so that makes it pretty clear what you want to do, right? Did a little shopping around because Michigan GT is it is a pretty large convention. I mean, there's all sorts of other games there too. Us chatting with some guys with DGS games. One of the guys that I've known before previously at different hobby shops in the area. Picked up some skellies, which was very appropriate because I'm playing Vampire Covenants round 5. So let's get right into it and start with some spell selection. So again, I kept my spells the same after round 2. Took Cleansing Fire, I took Trial of Faith, I took Smite the Unbeliever, and I took Hand of Heaven. All of the last 4 of my games. I never really wanted Wrath. I never really felt it. I didn't really play against anything too static enough. It might have been good in against Orcs and Goblins that last game, but I knew I wanted Hand of Heaven, and I kind of wanted the Breath of It. So I almost could have took Wrath. I probably could have dropped Trial of Faith. I've been looking back. I almost think there's probably a couple times I could have dropped Trial of Faith, but I kind of like Trial of Faith for its spike potential. But that's neither here nor there. Let's talk about this Vampire Master of evocation spells. He is the general, so he's got Dead Arise. He's got the hereditary spell Arise, and then he's got Spectral Blades, Whispers of the Veil, and Touch of the Reaper. And this lady vampire over here, she's a master of occultism, so she's got Hand of Glory, Grave Calls, Pentagram of Pain, Mark for Doom, and the bound version of Arise. So, and she might have a magical, no, she can't have a magical, like, she has a necromantic staff, I'm pretty sure, which is beautifully detailed on that miniature. And here we go. My opponent got to pick sides. I got to deploy first, so just kind of went down for it. Figured, let me just go for it. I mean, I'm in a pretty safe position at this point currently. I had 68 points going into this game, and I think the closest person was maybe 13 or 14 points below me, so they would have had to do both really well, and I had to do really poorly to screw this up. So I kind of just made sure to spread out my scoring units a bit. I kept my Tuskers on the right flank because, one, I felt they can zone everything in my opponent's army pretty well, and I honestly felt fine if they didn't do anything all game. So starting on my right flank going to the left, I got the Tuskers, Scratapult, Rock, BSB and his Dog, 4 Tribesmen and the Shaman, other Scratapult, Tribe Star, General, Yetis, and the scouting Mammoth Hunter has not scouted yet. Looking at my opponent's moment, he does an excellent job of keeping it tight on the right flank, or starting on his right, or my right, the right of the screen. He's got 5 of his Spectral Hunters, which I was not excited to see this game. My opponent has 2 units of 5, which is quite frustrating for my Fortitude Mammoth Hunter. Then he's got 1 of his Dark Coaches. He's got 8 of his Dogs. He's got 3 Vampire Knights. He's got his big block of Barrow Guard with his 2 Vampire Masters in him. He's got his little tiny unit of zombies sitting in the back of the board because they don't want to die. He's got his big unit of ghouls. I think it's like 40 plus ghouls next to them. He's got his other unit of 8 Dogs. And then he's got his other unit of 5 Spectral Hunters, which this is getting a little ahead of myself. And his other Dark Coach. So I ended up scouting my Mammoth Hunter on the left there, and I could have gotten the Mammoth Hunter out of the Arcus sight of the Coach, but I would have been able to get hit by the Spectral Hunters. So I kind of just kept him back and decided it wasn't worth it. It probably would have been worth it after I got Hand of Heaven off and killed 2, because then only 2, it only does 1 wound a turn, and that should be fine. But I was feeling I needed to play a little safe at first. So this is OgreCon's turn 1, basically. I just do a little shuffling up. Actually, this is my opponent's turn. OgreCon's turn 1. I just shuffle up, cast a little bit of magic. I only really do the Hand of Heaven, and I think the Scratapults don't really do a whole heck of a lot. So very simple turn one for the Ogre cons. Just trying to zone, just trying to... I do move the Tuskers pretty aggressively on the right flank, because I wasn't too worried about just the Spectral Hunters coming in. I've got so many attacks to throw at 5 guys that I think I'd be okay. But my opponent doesn't take that charge. Instead, on his turn one, he also just shuffles about, playing pretty conservatively at this point, and moves his Spectral Hunters through the building to get to the other side. And he's actually in a great spot where I can't charge him with my Tuskers because the building's too close to the board edge and I'm too long with them. So that was a very good move on his part. And then other than that, he just kind of gets ready for his... He's got a lot of offensive magic that he can use to hurt my characters, so that's what he's going to do. Which he does. I can't remember which one I let off. It's either Touch the Reaper or Marked for Doom. I let one of those through. I have to let one of those through a turn, honestly, and it does 2 wounds on my Shaman, which is not great, but also not terrible. Could be worse. Could be 3 wounds. So here's what we're like at the end of Vampire Covenant's turn 1. And we go into Ogrecon's turn 2, and I kind of just decide that I want to go for it. I want to play something instead of, sitting back the entire game, because I'm also thinking like, okay, if he can do 2 wounds of my Shaman, that means my Shaman's at least dead by turn 3, and then he can pick off another. It's like he's gonna pick up points if I don't engage. So I'm able to move my general in such a way that he can't be charged by the coach on the left, and he's in range to charge the ghouls, which I think he could just sit and grind out ghouls the rest of his life with his D3+1 stomps and his strength 6. Like, he's fine against those. He's in charge range of the 2 Spectral Hunters, but I think that's kind of a wash. I don't think he really does much to me. I think I at least kill 1 a turn, if not maybe 2. And then obviously he's got those dogs in front of him. And then I move my Mammoth Hunter on the left in such a way that only the coach can charge him, which is not a great charge, but I was also in such a way that my Yetis could provide backup, which I felt pretty confident about. And the Spectral Hunters can't charge him. He's out of their charge arc. And then in the center of the board, I move my dog up so that it can chaff my opponent's dog so they can't charge my BSB Mammoth Hunter. He's out of charge arc of the other coach, which, looking back, I wish I kept him in charge arc of that coach, but I really kind of just kept him facing the middle. He's looking at those Vampire Knights who do have a charge on him, but I think I can hold that for a turn, and I've got my Rock set up to support that combat. And then on my far right, the Tuxers just back up a bit. They kind of went forward a little bit, but then, if I can't get those Spectral Hunters behind the building, I'm okay just to zone. And my Scratapults move up. They just want to try and ping off some ghouls. They want to try and ping off some of those Barrow Guard, make my opponent have to start focusing on raises instead of offensive magic. And I was feeling pretty confident about that. I get Children Umi on my BSB to make it a little bit harder for those Vampire Knights not just to run through me in a turn. And I do hit with one of my Scratapults, and I think I kill 8 or so Barrow Guard fairly good. I can't complain about that. It looks like one of my Scratapults might have misfired. And then this is the end of my turn 1, going into my opponent's turn, or my end of 2, opponent's turn 2 start. He charges the Vampire Knights in. And he charges his dogs into my dog. He charges his Dark Coach into my Mammoth Hunter, which, again, I feel like this is such a swingy fight. We both have... I have a 2-up, 4-up. He's got a 3-up, or against me, he's got a 6-up, 4-up. Such a swingy fight. The impact hits suck, but again, those don't spike or make some arms. It's just so hard to tell what's going to happen. And I think I can do at least 1 to 2 wounds against this thing a turn. I should, for the most part. I've got 5 strength, 6 attacks. It's a little bit of a risk, but I was willing to take it to open up the game at least, because otherwise we could just sit back and make it a really small loss to me. These guys make it in, the dogs make it in, this makes it in, no problem. And my opponent's turn, he does get an Arise off. Thankfully, my opponent had really shit dice with his Rises all game. where he would roll like 2 dice and he would get it off on like it's a really low cast, like a 4 or 5, and he would just get it off on like a 4 or 5, and I was able to like take 2 dice. I was able to like keep matching him, so that like he was only able to get like maybe like 1 off a turn and then not really be able to focus much else. So got pretty fortunate there. Dog turning up. He charges in. He does 1 wound, which he's got 6 attacks, 4s and 4s. It's only 1.5 wounds that he should do, and he doesn't get that other half wound. I do 2 back, so we end up tying combat. Go dog. And then otherwise, all the other combats turn out great. My Mammoth Hunter takes a wound. I think he does a wound or 2 back. He either passes his break test or it's a tie combat against the Dark Coach. And then the BSB, same thing. He takes about a wound. I think he dishes a wound out, and it's like a tie combat. Or I pass my rerollable 8 check there, and feeling pretty happy about that. And then I think my opponent made the only mistake of this game is that he chaffed me with his dogs against my general, and that let my general charge in and my tribe star charge in, and the tribes needed, I think, like a 12 or a 13, and so pretty average charge. Failing it would have sucked, but making it was huge, and they make it. So now they have a juicy overrun of the ghouls, which is where I want to be. I need to kill scoring units, and that's not a great fight for the tribesmen, but I think it is one that they might be able to outgrind. And unfortunately, my Yetis do fail their flank charge into the coach. I needed a 7, so also very average charge, but that's okay. I was more inclined to want to get in with the tribe star this turn. We get Children of Umi up just to make it harder for my opponent to get any combat res against my tribes. And then we get -1 Resilient Smite the Unbeliever on these guys, which is big because I'm also going to target them with Gratapults. And then we get Cleansing Fire on the Rock just in case. And combat goes great. Shooting actually goes really well. I think I do like 18 wounds to the ghouls with my Stratapults. So very happy about that. That's what there's some dice behind them. He was thinking like, okay, at this point they might just explode. So he was kind of like, I'm just going to leave the models on the tray. I'll put dice behind them. I was like, that's fine, I'm fine with that. Combat on the left of the Mammoth Hunter goes okay. I think I take 2 more wounds, unfortunately. I think I dish another wound or 2 back out, but we stick around. So I think it's a tie combat again. My BSB and Rock, they kill the Vampire Knights, and then the Rock overruns into the combat with the dog. We fight that. The Rock blows through that. And then the Rock makes like a 10 or an 11 inch overrun in the flank of the coach. And that is just chef's kiss, beautiful. It doesn't get much better than that. And in the middle, we have no problem blowing through the other unit of dogs, and the tribesmen get into the flank of the ghouls. They're out of arc aside of the barrel guard. This game is looking good, folks. And then, so in his turn, he decides he needs to hold up my Mammoth Hunter, because otherwise I do have a relatively, I'd say, medium-ish charge, maybe a little bit long, but the Mammoth Hunter can either go into the ghouls, or he could go into those zombies in the backfield, which is also bad for my opponent. So he actually debated about this on turn 2, just charging these guys in to hold him up, thinking that I should only kill 1. There is a possibility I kill 2 and I'm free anyway, but he was kind of going back and forth about that. But he decides that at this point he's got to try and hold me up, and he does, so that ended up working out well. And I want to say I was able to stop all my opponent's rises. Maybe 1 got off, but then that's how many ghouls are left. So the ghouls are still alive. I think they got 16 left, so it goes fairly well. I take 3 wounds in return, thanks to Children of Umi, and unfortunately, this was my turn. So I guess the buffs are all going to be up. So so it goes pretty. Or no, this was my opponent's turn. So I had to try and get the buffs up again on my next turn. But I can't complain. He turns his Barrow Guard to look at my Tribe Star because again they are a scoring unit. So yeah. If we go tit for tat, it's not too terrible there since I've already picked up the Vampire Knights. And I'm feeling pretty confident nothing's going to get the Tuskers or nothing's going to really get my other unit of tribesmen. My Mammoth Hunter does die on my opponent's turn 3, which is fine. I mean, he did pretty well. He put 4 wounds, I think, on the coach. Or no, I think he only, I think they might think he had 4 wounds left. I might have got a vampiric back. So I charged my Yetis in because I'm pretty confident the Yetis can do it with the charge. They just got so many tags and they're strength 5. So Mammoth Hunter's general is still fighting the 1 remaining Spectral Hunter. And then the Rock blows through the Chariot on my opponent's turn 3. It turns around and tries a long charge on the zombies. My opponent used his vultures to chaff so it couldn't go into the barrel guard, which was smart. But I do bring my BSB into those miniatures so that I can get rid of them. And then I'm kind of just, at this point, taking my Tuskers and they're just kind of going around. It's going to take them a while to get anywhere. My opponent has like a really long charge, maybe even an impossible charge into their like flank or something like that, or maybe actually their rear. Which I was, again, not too worried about because I just got so many attacks. Yes, I think this is... Oh, yeah. So magic, I get Cleansing Fire up on my champion. And then I think I get the -1 Resilience spell off again, which is just awesome. I think my opponent stopped the -1 to wound. And then, I think we just pick off a decent amount. You can see the barrel guard are getting reduced. The Stratopults are like in short range. So even if they're getting partial hits, they're still hitting a nice chunk and lethal strike still goes through them. So it's going well there. Yetis do a good job. They get rid of the Dark Coach. They take a couple wounds in return, but I can't complain about that. They turn to look at the center, and the Tribe Star does get rid of the rest of the ghouls, just barely down to a ghoul. I got very fortunate right there. I think it came down to my stomps. I needed like 1 or 2 more wounds, and the stomps got it. So pretty excited about that. They turn to face the Barrow Guard unit. My general kills the other Spectral Hunter. He turns to face the Barrow Guard unit. That's the only thing alive besides the Spectral Hunters on the other side of the board. Which the Barrow Guard unit, when they charge in, they have no problem blowing through the rest of the tribesmen. The tribesmen do a nice chunk of wounds back to them. I mean, they're getting pretty reduced at this point. This must be my opponent's turn 5, actually, because what happened is my opponent killed the Tribe Star, broke and ran them down. When the Tribe Star broke, my general actually failed a panic test, and he ran. He rallied on my turn 5, and this is my opponent charging on his turn 5. So he charges in my Mammoth Hunter because his vampires are still decent at killing him, so we get into a duel. And I want to say there was like a couple raises in between this picture where like there were more Barrow Guard, and then I brought the Yetis in, and I brought the Stratopult in, and we killed the rest of the Barrow Guard again. So now it's just the 2 vampires who are in a duel. My Yetis actually get kicked out of that combat because they can't slide over anymore. My Rock eats some zombies. The Spectral Hunters just decide they can't really catch the Tuskers, who at a certain point realize they can't go any farther, so they just end up like turning around. I moved my other tribesman unit away just so they can't like possibly get panicked. And just getting magic up. He's got Whispers on me. I got Smite on him. I've got -1 to wound. But it ends up that I think what ends up happening is I break from combat. Like I lose combat by 1 at some point, and I flee. The vampires come to try and catch me, and they don't get me, and that's how we end on turn 6. So my hunter, my general's alive, but he's not dead, so that's cool. Good job, guy. So this is we're starting to kind of clean up here because it's getting pretty late in the afternoon. The only thing I lose in this game is my Scouting Mammoth Hunter and my Tribe Star. Everything else is alive. The Yetis don't fail a panic test. I can't complain about this. Get a nice juicy 17-3 against Mr. Brian Jennings. Thank you, sir. And folks, we won it. Michigan GT in the bucket. Got to win with the Ogre cons. I get this Michigan GT gives they give everyone at the different gaming events these really nice cool trophies, the gears. Won best overall, and I got this really sweet axe. Yeah, I cannot complain. Ogres performed well, and this is the rest of the Kirby Paint Tile Plus crew, the last of the Brune and G. We're all sitting here with our awards. Maxwell on the left there, he won, I think, Best General with his Infernal Doors. He finished second overall after me, after we had our game turn one. And then my good friend Drewski on the right there, he won, I think, Best Good, which he complained about because his Highborn Elves were kind of middle of the pack, but he was the only other really good player. And then our good friend Alex right in the middle, he led the event for us, and we gave him Player's Choice because he was such a great TO. And so I just want to thank everybody for watching. Oh, my son jumps in the pictures, grabs my leg, doesn't look at the camera. Oh, there he is. What a cutie. Everybody, thanks for watching, and I will see you soon for another 9th Age Battle Report.